This story now, opening South Africa's rail infrastructure to private companies would see significant investment in the sector. It will also unlock massive economic benefits and upstream job creation across a range of industries. Well, that's according to Traxtion, a private rail operator. Its CEO, James Holly, joins us in studio now to talk more about this. James, thank you very much for joining us. So, you know that South Africa has this massive challenge of unemployment. How would this opening up the rail infrastructure to private companies like yours help create those much-needed jobs?
Well, I think the exciting thing about infrastructure is it is an enabler for growth. Okay, so we spend a lot of time in South Africa looking at how many jobs our state-owned enterprises create. Okay, however, what we should really be thinking about is how many jobs an efficient rail infrastructure, in our example, is creating upstream. Because it comes back to competitive advantage and a nation's competitive advantage. We in South Africa are extremely lucky. We have about 36,000 kilometers of installed rail infrastructure. The Transnet network alone is about 23,000 kilometers. It's an enormous infrastructure. The cost to replace that infrastructure is about 1.5 trillion rand.
Sure.
And we have that infrastructure available to us to enable the growth of our industry. And yet there's latent capacity in that network.
So, as I initially asked you this question, in South Africa, you will know that we have a large pool of semi-skilled labor workforce. Now, what other industries would possibly benefit out of this, or what other sectors of the economy would benefit out of this in order to open up that labor absorption that is always spoken about by government?
So I think what we have to do is we have to look at what sectors in our economy are underutilized or underutilizing the rail sector. Okay, if we look at the coal industry, the iron ore industry, maybe the manganese industry, those industries are highly rail intensive. And you know, it's almost amusing when I talk to friends and they say, why don't we have a rail infrastructure in South Africa? We actually do. Transnet's one of the world's biggest railways. They move 220 million tons. It's an enormous business. But then we've got to say, well, where is the additional opportunity for railways to make our industry more competitive? And those opportunities exist in areas like agriculture, like containerized transportation movement, and certain areas of mining, like chrome, ferrochrome, manganese, and effectively, in our mining industry, it's the opening up of new mining opportunities.
A labor leader who's watching this interview, a union leader, immediately is saying, no, but this can't happen. You are going to decimate Transnet, which is the monopoly in this sector, and add to that, you're going to further mechanize this industry, and therefore job losses are going to be the next issue. How do you appease them? Because they are quite an influential bloc, particularly in governance decisions.
So I think it's a very easy response to that. And it's really the most important question is, why not open up the state's rail infrastructure? Okay? We have a situation in South Africa where we have this incredible installed base. Today's Heritage Day. You know, we should almost celebrate the heritage we have in our railways, you know. And if that infrastructure base isn't being utilized, if there's latent capacity in that network, if Transnet is operating, say, 50% of the capacity of that network, okay, every company, because of the nature of the way those companies are funded, has a capacity limit as to how much they can expand. It's very simple. Companies are funded by profit, they're funded by debt and by equity, okay? There's a limit that every company has in its ability to continue to invest back and to expand. Now, we've got an installed base in the country, okay? And that installed base has slots available on that network, okay? The challenge to the private operators that the draft white paper for national rail policy is calling for private operators to enter the network. The National Treasury discussion document that was released about a month ago is calling for private operators to enter the network. What they are saying is the challenge to the private operators is not to go and to take volumes from Transnet. It's to bring incremental volumes to Transnet. Because every time we move a train on top of the Transnet network, we pay Transnet access fees. Just like you and I would pay toll fees when we drive down to Durban, we will pay access fees to Transnet. It's a whole new revenue stream that they generate, which strengthens the position of Transnet and strengthens our state rail position.
The other hurdle for you, James, is the issue of transformation. Private companies are not trusted when it comes to this area, and it's not without reason. You only have to look at those listed on the JSE. How would you go about this one?
Well, there's one fundamentally important point here, and that's the skills deficit that we have in the country.
Yeah.
Okay? And across a lot of industries, and it's relevant in our industry too, there is a skills deficit. So what we have in our company is we have a rail school where we internally train drivers and we train artisans. And through that, we're skilling up. We're providing people with skills from our local communities where we work and putting them into the working environment with a wonderful qualification and the ability to liberate themselves. So if you take an industry like the railways, okay, which is an enormously capital-intensive industry, okay, and we start investing back into that industry, and we start expanding the capacity that South Africa has, bearing in mind that we have more than 100 years of history in our rail environment. The job creation is not just in our business and the skills that we create and the people that our rail school teaches about the industry. It's across the whole supply chain. It's across the companies that service us and the companies that manufacture parts for us. And eventually we create this environment where we're creating a huge amount of employment across the whole rail supply chain. In our company, in addition to the fact that we are training young black people to become highly skilled artisans and highly skilled drivers, we are also 44.5% black owned, and we're ticking a lot of boxes personally as our company. But I think that the key thing here we've got to look at is not how many jobs we create, and not how many jobs and it's really about how many jobs we enable upstream into industry by having a highly competitive and efficient rail system in our country.
James Hardy, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck on convincing the rest of the governing alliance. He is the CEO of Traxtion, which is a private